All right. Hello, everyone. We're super glad that you're joining us for today's information session. My name is Brittany Boss, and I'm the Master's Admissions and Financial Aid Associate here at Boston University. Today, we will be going through a handful of different topics in regards to Boston University and our different programs that we have to offer, as well as the application process. So I'm sure many of you are coming into this with some questions that you're hoping to ask. And if that's the case, then feel free to submit them in the chat box. We'll be going through those as we present this session today. I'll also leave some time at the end of the presentation if you have any more questions that you're hoping to ask, and at that time you can unmute yourself as well to ask your questions. I also want to note that I'm joined by a few other members of my team, so you might see them pop into the chat box to help answer your questions as well. And then the last note that I want to make is that this presentation is geared more towards our master's programs. So if you're interested in one of our PhD programs, that is great. Just let us know, and then we can point you in the right direction to speak with one of our PhD staff members to see what the PhD programs look like. And now we will begin the presentation. So I first want to start by talking about who we are as an institution. So Boston University is a top-ranked research institution located right in the heart of Boston. For those of you who are from this area or who have visited Boston before, you'll probably agree with me when I say that we are a smaller city in comparison to places like New York City or Los Angeles or Chicago. I grew up going to Chicago a few times a year, so I was amazed when I moved to Boston that I could see the same stranger in multiple areas of the city. So we definitely have that small city feel, even though it is a little bit of a larger city. And one thing that I really appreciate about Boston is how walkable and bikeable it is. And we'll discuss that a little bit more down the road in this presentation, but it's a huge perk of living in Boston. And that's true for our campus as well. Our campus is essentially a 2-mile stretch along Commonwealth Avenue, which is one of the main streets in Boston. So it's really easy to navigate. We are a large institution, and we have close to 30,000 students in total, 16,000 of which are undergraduates and 14,000 of which are graduate students. So that said, we do have all of the resources of a large institution, like an incredibly helpful career development services center and access to research resources, which students can utilize as part of their coursework. And we also have amazing resources for our students in terms of different student groups that you're able to join and extracurricular activities that you can participate in on campus as a graduate student. But at the same time, we do have the feel of a smaller institution, and that's because of the smaller communities within Boston University. So it's kind of like a pyramid. At the base, all of our students are part of the big Boston University community. And then the next tier that they're part of is the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences. Above that, they're part of their academic department. And then at the very top of the pyramid, they belong to their specific program. So even though it's a large institution, there's a lot of different tiers that you belong to. In terms of ranking, our economics programs are ranked number 20th in the country by US News, and our computer science programs are at number 49th in the country by US News. And then all of the remainder of our programs are all within the top 100 programs. So as you can tell, we are a very competitive institution in terms of ranking. To dive a little bit deeper into the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences, which is where our office belongs, I do want to talk about our core. So at the core of our programs, there's two main pieces. The first is that we have a sense of collaboration, and that collaboration comes in several different forms. It looks like collaboration between students on coursework and projects. There's also collaboration between students and faculty on research or assistantships or just mentorships as well. And then there's also collaboration between different departments as we do have a number of classes and projects that pull together students from different disciplines and different spots of campus to work on one singular project together. And then we also have a sense of collaboration with a lot of other schools in the area, as Boston is kind of an academic hub. So we do find ourselves working with students from MIT or Boston College or Harvard, which is right across the river from us as well. So it's a lot of great connections to have. And then the other core to our programs is really putting theory into practice and applying the skills that you're learning in the classroom to real life situations and real world problems. So one of our programs that does this really well is the Master of Science in Statistical Practice program. And that is a one-year program that's focused on building applied statistics skills to pursue careers in consulting. So as part of this program, the students participate in a year-long practicum project where they're broken up into smaller cohorts, and then they work directly with a company in the Boston area. They're advised by their academic advisor for the program, and then they work with this company to help develop a product. And then at the end of the year, they deliver the product to the company that they were working with. So that might be in the form of consulting or an analysis or different statistics to help the company prepare for a purchase of some sort. So the students can really help the company through that process while they're using the skills and the information that they're learning right in the classroom. And we find that this is also super helpful because students have found that they're able to put together a really great portfolio once they graduate that they can then present to future employers as part of their resume. And then in terms of our location, as I mentioned, our campus is about 2 miles in length along Commonwealth Avenue. We are broken up into an Eastern campus, a Central campus, and a Western campus. And our building is located right within the Central campus. So we have pretty equal access to all of the resources across Boston University. And our students do typically take their courses right in our building. So they don't often find themselves traveling all the way from one end of campus to the other side of campus for a class. So it's really easy to navigate once you're on campus, which is a huge perk of being in the central portion of our long campus. And then in terms of all of the different degrees that we offer, as we offer a lot, we have programs across the computational sciences like statistics and computer science, the social sciences like psychology and sociology, the natural sciences like biology and chemistry, and also humanities for programs like English and history of art and architecture. So we really cover a vast expanse of different programs in different areas. So we're not only able to build collaboration with other schools in the area, but also within our own programs here at the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences. And our students will sometimes find that they're able to take a course in another department along with the department's approval if it's something that really aligns with their program goals and their career goals. So what they hope to do after graduating from the program. Just to cover some numbers of interest as well, we were named one of the most innovative national universities by the US News World Report, and only 36 other schools were selected for that category. We're innovative through a number of different ways, both through the work that's being done on campus with our faculty and students, as well as some of the centers and initiatives that BU has pursued. So one of our more recent initiatives is the Build Lab, which is something that I really enjoy as a business undergrad, which is a facility right on campus where students can go and propose an idea for a company or a product that they're interested in pursuing. And then they can work with business professionals at the Build Lab to help turn that into something a little bit more concrete and more real. So this might involve looking at different marketing strategies or a timeline in terms of when they want to produce the product or pursue the company, or looking at loans to take out if they're hoping to actually develop the company and have a physical location. So the Build Lab is there to help them through that process And the cool thing about it is that it doesn't have to be something that is applied specifically to your degree program. It might just be an idea floating around in your head that you find you have the time and the resources to finally pursue. So that's a really great opportunity to take at BU. In terms of career connections, we have a really vast alumni network of close to 360,000 students who have graduated from BU programs. Our alumni network has been an incredibly helpful resource for our students for a few different reasons. We're also a really global institution, so it really allows our students to expand their opportunities across the globe if they want to pursue an opportunity in China or Italy or Brazil. We have a number of alumni in those areas that we can connect them with to help put them on the right path and to help them tap into the resources that will help them along the way as they transition into their careers. And we do have a lot of events throughout the year as well that brings alumni back onto campus to interact with our current students. So it's a great opportunity to get connected and to prepare yourself for life after graduation. In terms of applications for this past application cycle, we had more than 5,000 applications and we only had about 350 spots. So that said, we are a very competitive institution and we're becoming more and more so as the applicant pool grows. Okay, before we begin talking about life here at Boston University, I do want to note that a lot of the things I'll mention will talk about a typical semester here, and that in light of COVID-19, there are just a few changes. So I want to discuss those for a moment. We are committed to providing a healthy residential education experience for all of our students. So they've put in place many comprehensive health and safety protocols, such as operating our own clinical testing lab so that we can test large volumes and return the results rapidly. We're also rigorous when it comes to screening and contact tracing when we're on campus. And then additional precautions also include self-screening daily on our Patient Connect app to receive an email indicating that you're cleared to come to class on campus. So that said, this section about campus life, we'll be looking forward to what we can expect. Our campus is located right in the central portion, as I mentioned, and we're very close to our student union as well as the Fitness and Recreation Center, which is in the western portion of campus. And the FitRec is our on-campus fitness facility that all of our full-time students automatically have access to. And they have a large amount of resources. They have an Olympic-sized pool, they have an indoor track, and they have a climbing wall. So they have a lot of great things there. And our graduate students can actually enroll in classes there as well. So if you're interested in pursuing something there, then you can sign up for classes like ballroom dancing or weight training or even different aquatics courses. So keep that in mind, that those are an option. We're also super close to Kenmore Square, which is in the eastern section of our campus. And Kenmore Square is an area that has a number of different restaurants and shops, and it's about a 10-minute walk from our campus. So it's really easy just to walk down there for lunch or for dinner. We're also really close to Fenway Park, which is where the Boston Red Sox, our professional baseball team, plays. So that's always a really exciting area to walk around in, or even to catch a game between classes or after class when you have the time. In terms of on-campus events, there are a lot of opportunities that students can participate in. Just to name a few, we have improv shows, so that's always really interesting. And then we also offer intramural sports teams. So if that's something that you've done in the past or you want to try that out while you're here, then those are definitely opportunities that are available to our graduate students as well. And just to talk a little bit more about the city of Boston in general, as I know not everyone is from this area, we do have a couple of shopping centers here in this area. The main ones are the Prudential Center, which is located here on the left side of the screen in the left picture, as well as Newberry Street. And Newberry Street is a long street filled with brownstones leading up to the Boston Commons. It's very beautiful, very picturesque, especially in the fall. We also have a number of centers for theater, music, and art. So our students have really great access to the Museum of Fine Arts because they get free tickets as part of being students. So they can visit whenever they want. And the museum has exhibits that change throughout the year. So it's always really cool to go back a few times a year just to walk around and check out the new exhibits that they have on display. In addition to the Red Sox, we also have the Celtics, which is our professional basketball team, as well as the Bruins, which is our professional hockey team. And I'm not too big of a sports fan myself, but I've been to at least one game of each of these teams, and it's definitely worth it. Boston gets really into their sporting events, so it's a whole experience to go to one of those games. Cambridge and Somerville are two neighbors that are located right across the river from our campus. And they also offer a lot of great restaurant options. They have different farmers markets and festivals. I really enjoy going to the North End for pasta and cannolis and to walk along the harbor and just look out at the boats in the water there. It's also always a lot of fun to sit in the Boston Garden and read a book or take a ride on the swan boats that they have in the pond there, or even just to walk around on a nice day. So as you can tell from that brief description, each part of the city does have a lot to offer, and there's always something new to explore, and there's always an event going on in this city. And then I also want to talk about commuting a little bit, as I know that that can seem a little bit intimidating at first, especially if you're not used to taking public transportation, but it is actually really convenient and surprisingly easy. The main form of transportation in Boston is the MBTA, which we call the T, and it has routes all across the city. One of the routes goes directly through the entire length of our campus, so it's really easy to get from one side of campus to the other. And our students are actually able to enroll in a discounted semester pass when you're a student here. So instead of having a monthly pass, you'll be able to enroll in a semester pass at a better deal. And then Boston University also has a shuttle for bringing students across campus. So there is a bus that you can also take to get from one side of campus to the other. And the city is also very walkable and bikeable. So it's really easy to get around, even if you don't have a car on campus. I do not have a car in Boston, and I just usually take my bike and feel super safe doing so. And if you don't have a bike on campus either, then you may consider a membership to one of the bike shares in town, where you can hop on a bike in one location and drop it off at a different location. So there's a handful of different commuting options here in Boston, all of which are pretty convenient once you get a hang of it. We also have a number of resources available for our students to find housing. Housing for graduate students is available through BU Real Estate at the email listed here on this slide. So many of our students will actually choose to live off campus instead. So there is a resource for that as well, which is the second email and link here on this slide. Some of the nearby neighborhoods that our students live is Alston, Brighton, and Brookline, and those are all very close to campus, typically within walking distance. And then some neighborhoods that are a little further away are Cambridge and Somerville, which are still commutable by bike or public transportation. And then some of our students do live further out of the city yet, and then they either drive to campus and park, or they use the commuter rail to get in. And our students do typically choose to live with roommates, and that definitely helps to cut the costs a little bit, as housing is not particularly cheap in Boston. And our roommates can be found through different department contacts, through our BU off-campus housing website, There's different Facebook roommate groups that you can use, and then also just connections made through different student groups that you're part of, as well as our WeChat. And I personally have found that websites such as Zillow, Trulia, and Facebook are really helpful to find housing options as well. When I first moved to Boston, I used a Facebook group to find my apartment and my first roommates. And then when I was able to make my own friends and have my own friend group, then I was able to find a different apartment and move in with those friends. So that's always an option as well. There's not a terrible way to go when it comes to housing, as all of the different locations in different neighborhoods in Boston have a lot of great apartment or house options. The Graduate School of Arts and Sciences does offer a variety of different student groups for other areas of interest. These include the GSO, which is the Graduate Student Organization, GWISE, which is the Graduate Women in Science and Engineering group. And then there's also a handful of different department specific groups like the Graduate Economics Association, the Earth and Environment Association, and the Boston University student chapter of the American Statistical Association. And all of these groups have events throughout the year that you can be a part of. And this is just a handful of the groups that we offer as well. There's definitely more opportunities for student groups all around campus. So that's definitely something that we encourage our students to become part of, to meet other people, to build their community, and just to be a part of something different on campus outside of your program. And now I will take a few minutes to discuss the application process. The applications for fall 2022 will open up on September 1st. So that's a great date to keep in mind to set a timer on your calendar for. September 1st is when the fall 2022 applications will open. And the application deadlines do vary by department. They'll have different deadlines. And so that's something to be aware of when you begin your application. And if you have questions about the deadline, don't hesitate to reach out to ask us and we can let you know. For all of our applications, we do require an unofficial transcript of coursework and at least 2 letters of recommendation. Most of the programs do require 3 letters of recommendation, but I believe the economics department is the only one who requires 2 letters of recommendation. Most of our programs also require the GRE, general test. So that's something that you'll also have to submit official scores for if the GRE is required for your program. Applicants also need to submit a personal statement and a CV or a resume, which they can upload directly through the application system. And then for our international applicants, we do require the applicants to submit official TOEFL, IELTS, or Duolingo scores as part of the application process as well. For the TOEFL, we require a minimum score of 21 in each section. For the IELTS, we require a minimum score of 7.0. And then for the Duolingo test, we require a score of 105 or higher. And we do need the official scores for those, so you will have to submit those to us. And I do want to give a few tips and pointers to be aware of when you're starting your application. When requesting your recommenders, really make sure that they're able to speak to your ability to complete graduate coursework and succeed both as a student and also in the professional world once you graduate. So it's not a bad idea to be a little bit picky with your recommenders, to choose recommenders who you know would be the best, who would be best able to speak to who you are as a student and a professional and a person. The personal statement is your opportunity to tell the admissions committee why you're interested in the program of your choice and how it will help you to accomplish your goals. So really feel free to elaborate and show the admissions committee who you are. And for the personal statement, there really aren't too many guidelines. Um, it has to be longer than 500 words and shorter than 5 pages. But that's really the only stipulation. So there's a lot of freedom in writing your personal statement. And then my last tip, which seems to be kind of common sense, but try to complete the application prior to the deadline so that the department can begin to review your materials sooner. The sooner that you get it in, the sooner that the department will have access to review it. So it's always a good idea to try to submit it as soon as you can. And if you have any questions about the application process, we are always here to help. We know that sometimes the information can be a little bit hard to find, or you feel that you need some more information about the requirements. So definitely feel free to let us know if you have questions about that. We also know that finances are definitely a huge part of the equation when you're considering graduate school. So I do want to touch on this subject a little bit as well. Our students are eligible to borrow loans up to their entire cost of attendance. So that includes tuition, fees, health insurance, books, and about $20,000 for living expenses. So our domestic students typically borrow the federal direct unsubsidized loan and or the graduate plus loan to do so. Private loans are also an option that you may consider, but we do find that the federal loans have a little bit of a lower interest rate. So we recommend looking into those first. And for our international students, there are two loans available. There's Empower Financing and Prodigy Finance. So those are two loans that our students will typically look into. And some of our international students will also borrow loans from their home country if they find that they're able to do so. The website listed here, which is gradsense.org, has some really helpful loan advice and financial planning tools. So I highly recommend checking them out as you start to think about financing your education. They just have a lot of great information and calculators and tools on there for you to use. There are also a handful of BU and national fellowships that you may consider applying for, such as the Claire Booth Luce Fellowship and the Martin Luther King Jr. Fellowship. Additionally, many of our students will choose to work part-time jobs on campus, and that helps to not only fund living expenses while you're a student, but it also helps to build your resume and build your skills while you're here as well. And the on-campus employment opportunities will be available for you once you are admitted and registered for your courses. Then you'll begin to apply to those positions. Okay, and now I will take some time to talk about the individual programs that you might be interested in. So we'll be going through a handful of different ones. This does not include all of the programs. So if we get to the end and you have questions about your specific program of choice, let us know. But the first program is the economics department. So we offer 3 programs within the area of economics. We have our 1-year Master of Arts in Economics program, which is geared towards individuals who want to earn their master's degree and move on to careers in the consulting field, working for a number of different organizations, including the World Bank and Goldman Sachs. The Master of Arts in Economic Policy program is a 3-semester program that really prepares students for careers as policy analysts and decision makers in government and nonprofit organizations. And our Master of Arts in Global Development Economics program is also a 3-semester program that helps our students prepare to tackle international policy issues as analysts within the field of development economics. Our computer science department offers 4 different programs. There's the General Master of Science in Computer Science. There's the MS in Computer Science with specialization in cybersecurity. There's also the specialization in data-centric computing. And then our newest program is the Master of Science in Artificial Intelligence program. And all of these programs are typically completed in 3 semesters, but they can be completed in only 2 semesters as well. So 1 full academic year. Our Master of Science in Biology program has 3 different tracks that our students can select. There's a coursework track, a scholarly paper track, and a research thesis track. The coursework track can be completed in a year, and the scholarly paper track can be completed in 1 academic year and a summer. And then the research thesis track typically requires 2 full years to complete. But in all 3 tracks, students are assigned faculty advisors in their subfield of interest, which is listed here on this slide. There's 4 different subfields. We have established a lot of connections with different companies in the Boston area, so students are able to pursue career paths with biological and pharmaceutical companies right in the city upon graduation, as Boston is kind of a pharmaceutical hub. So it's a really great area to be for your biology degree. I touched on the Master of Science in Statistical Practice program a little bit earlier in the presentation, but this is a 1-year program where students learn the professional skills that they need to pursue high-level consulting careers. And then as part of their curriculum, they work on a consulting project with an actual company in the city. And then the spring semester, they then work directly with the company to provide the service that is requested from them. The Master of Arts in Earth and Environment program is 2 years in length, and it permits students to customize their coursework to obtain a depth of knowledge in earth and environmental topics. Our Master of Science in Energy and Environment is a 1-year program that prepares students to launch into careers in energy consulting. And our MS in Remote Sensing and Geospatial Sciences program is also 1 year in length. And all of these programs are taught by our world-class faculty and are really designed to engage students with research techniques and professional competencies that prepare them for careers in private, public, and nonprofit sectors. The Master of Arts in Psychology program is a 1-year program that consists of 8 courses, so 4 courses in the fall and 4 courses in the spring. The program also offers courses in a variety of different specializations, including clinical psychology, developmental psychology, and brain, behavior, and cognition courses. The last program that I'll mention today is the Master of Fine Arts in Literary Translation, which is one of our newer programs. And this program gives students the tools to read and write more thoughtfully across languages. It's a 2-semester program that includes courses in translation history and theory, language-specific workshops, and advanced literary studies. For fall 2021, the program accepted students translating into English from 11 different languages, and we're hoping that that number will increase as the years go on. So why should you choose Boston University? We believe that you should choose BU because we offer a vast expanse of professional master's programs that really prepare all of our students to succeed in careers in their chosen field of interest or in further studies through a PhD program, either at BU or at a different university. We also have a very strong alumni network that is a super helpful connection to have all across the globe for once you graduate from your program. And just the city of Boston itself is vibrant and energetic and such a fun place to be through your studies. There's always something going on in the city, and it's very exciting. So I will go ahead and end the presentation there and open it up to any questions that you guys may have. I see some in the chat box here, so I'll begin to go through those and help touch on those topics a little bit more. I'll also leave this slide open, which has our contact information on it, as I know you guys will probably have some questions in the future as well. So feel free to contact us either through this email or our phone number, and we can help get those questions answered even after this presentation as well. Okay, there is a question asking if the GRE is required for the Master of Science in Computer Science programs. Yes, we do require the GRE official test for the computer science programs. So that will be a requirement as part of the application process. There is a question asking if the GRE is waived for the PhD in mathematics. I can try to find that on the website here. I'm not too familiar with the requirements for our PhD programs, but I can try to figure that out.
शामिल की वो जो है फोर्थ को तो फिर वो कह रहे थे
Do you mind repeating your question? Okay, let me see. I'm not finding the requirements for the GRE for the PhD program. I would recommend reaching out to the PhD staff members at grs@bu.edu. I just sent the email in the chat box, and they'd be happy to help answer the PhD requirements for you.
Brittany, if I could just jump in, I found the requirements.
Yes, please
and
do.
I'll send the link in the chat, but the PhD in mathematics and the PhD in statistics both require the GRE general test score report and the official GRE subject test in mathematics. So both of those are required.
Great, thanks, Emma. Okay, I see some questions asking about the required scores, and they were answered in here, but the required score for the TOEFL is a 21 in each section. And then for the IELTS, it's an overall score of 7.0. And for the online Duolingo test, it's a minimum of 105. Do you mind repeating your question again? I think it cut out a little bit at the end. Do you mind writing the question in the chat box? I think it was a little bit fuzzy, so I wasn't able to hear the specific question. Is the TOEFL mandatory for international students whose first language is English, and is the GRE required for the MA in linguistics? If your first language is English, that is a great question. So if you're from a country whose national language is English, then you do not have to take the TOEFL. If you went to an undergraduate university where the language of instruction was English, then you do not need to take the TOEFL. If English is your first language, but there's not really any documentation to show that, then you may request that the department will give you an interview so that they can note that your English is your first language, but otherwise the TOEFL, IELTS, or Duolingo test would be mandatory. And is the GRE required for the linguistics program? Let me check that on my list here. It is not required for the linguistics program. There is a question asking if there's a specific requirement on who to submit a letter of recommendation, for example, having 2 academic or 2 professional. Most of the programs do recommend having more academic references. We know that not every one of our applicants are applying straight out of undergraduate studies. A lot of you may have quite a few years of professional work, so then you would have more professional recommendations. So the departments definitely recognize that as well. But I would say if you graduated from your undergraduate not too long ago, having 2 or 3 academic references would be great. If you've been in the professional world for a while, then maybe 2 professional and 1 academic reference would be ideal. But there aren't too many really strong stipulations on that.
Could I just ask a follow-up question on the letters of recommendation, like you're
Of
speaking about?
course.
Yeah. So I graduated from undergrad in 2016 and applied to some grad school programs in the past. So I have a professor that wrote me a letter of recommendation, but I would be applying for like the fall program period. So at that point, my letter of recommendation from my professor would be at least 5 or 6 years old. So in my opinion, that seems a little outdated. Would you still recommend including that one, or or maybe in favor instead just go for more professional recommendation?
Yeah, that's a good question. So how it works with our applications is that the recommenders will actually submit it on their end. So they'll have to submit the recommendation letter through a portal that will be opened for them once you write down their information as a recommender. So they may update the letter anyway on their end before submitting it. And they'll have to submit a few questions as well on there that would be up to date because they have to answer them just right on the portal.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's kind of like the little gray space where you could do either. You could either get professional recommenders, or if that is a strong recommender, then yeah, definitely include that one as well.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thanks.
Of course.
While we're talking, is it okay if I ask one more question?
Of course.
Great. So I was interested in the energy and environment program, and one thing that's like really important to me for like selecting the right grad school program is that I build relationships with potential employers while I'm enrolled in the program. And I noticed that some of the programs you've talked about actually have like practicum work where you would be partnered with companies. So I guess I was wondering for that program specifically, if there's any ways that program tries to like build a connection from students to like potential employers within the city of Boston or the surrounding area.
Yeah, that's a great question. I know that the program does a great job at building relationships with the current faculty members who naturally have connections throughout Boston and throughout the city. They don't have any required practicum projects, but I know some of the students will hold an internship either throughout the summer or as a part-time job throughout the semester. So that's definitely an option. I will send you a message with the contact information for that program. That would be super helpful in asking that question, as he'll have some more information about what current students or past students have done. And even might be able to help connect you with some current students or alumni who can, kind of talk with you more about what they're doing right now in terms of internships or career.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. Thanks.
Of course. Okay, I just sent his email in the chat box.
Okay, and then what's his name?
His name is Matt DeCintio.
Okay, great.
He's the program administrator, so he'll be a really helpful contact.
Okay, thanks. I'll follow up with him. I appreciate it.
Great, of course.
Hi, I have a question.
Of course, hello.
I'm interested in applying to the psychology program, and I'm more interested in the cognitive psychology side. And now I'm so I want to know a little bit more about the psychology program. And also now I'm writing my personal statement. So because I know the personal statement is limited space, so I kind of want to know like which side, like which area should I emphasize more? Like which side do you do you want to know more?
Yeah, that is a great question. I will give you the contact information for the psychology department, as they'll have a better idea of what they're looking for in the personal statement, as they're the ones who will be reviewing your application, as well as just more general information about the psychology program itself as well. So I will send you their email here in the chat box. And they would be a great contact for that. Yeah, when it comes to the personal statement, there is a lot of freedom in writing about what you feel is best to write about. I know that they don't have any really specific guidelines for it. So you might want to ask them about that, just to double check to see if there's anything in particular that they're really looking for.
Okay, and now also is a psychology program like really competitive? Like how competitive is the program?
Yeah, that is a good question. I don't have the numbers off of the top of my head right now. I'm not sure if you do, Catherine. I know that you just kind of looked into that. All of our programs are fairly competitive, and the applicant pool is growing each year. I know that we received about 100 more applications for the psychology program this year compared to last year, with the same number of open spots. So it is fairly competitive, but I don't have the specific numbers off the top of my head right now. So I'll let Catherine speak to that if she has a better idea of that.
Hi, Brittany. Yeah, I will get some more information regarding those numbers and email them over to you so that you have a better sense of our kind of applicant pool and acceptance rate. Thanks.
Great, thank you.
Okay, yeah, that's all my question.
Great.
Thank you.
Of course. All right, it looks like quite a few of the questions in the chat box have already been answered. So I'll keep scrolling through them to make sure. Okay, let's see here. There is a question asking if multiple programs and multiple applications are allowed. So if you want to apply to both the computer science program and the artificial intelligence program. So this next year, we will not be allowing multiple applications. So how it works, since all of those programs are underneath the same department, you could submit an application for one of the programs. And then if you decided that you wanted to switch to one of the other programs in the computer science department, then you'd have to talk with the computer science department to ask if that is something that they could approve. If that's a switch that they were able and willing to make, but they would have to review you for that switch. So we really recommend and encourage you to apply to only the program that you're most interested in applying to and being part of. There is a question asking about if the GRE is required for the psychology program. Yes, the GRE is required as part of the psychology application. You do not need to take the psychology subject test, but the GRE general test is required. Yeah, Emma sent a link here that's really helpful. I'm just going to send it again in the chat box. It is the full list of requirements for all of our programs. So this website that I just sent, if you press on that, it will show all of the programs that we have to offer, and it will show all of the application materials that are required. So I highly recommend checking that out, just to make sure that the GRE is required and to make sure that you need a personal statement and a resume. Some of the programs require a writing sample. So I highly recommend checking that website out. Oh yes, it looks like Catherine sent that as well. Perfect. There is a question asking about application fee waivers for the next admission cycle. We do give application fee waivers, especially for part of, being here at this information session. We don't have those available right now just because the application cycle hasn't opened up yet. But if you reach out to us at our email listed here on this slide on September 1st, or once you start your application, then we can give you an application fee waiver at that time. Okay, there is a question asking about scholarships. So how that works is that a handful of our programs do offer scholarships or assistantships each year. And those are partial scholarships, typically in the range of about $5,000 to $20,000 per year. So that would be $2,500 to $10,000 per academic semester. And that's something that if the department offers a scholarship, you'll automatically be considered for it just based on a review of your application to the program itself. So that is something that there's not really any specific criteria for it. There's no separate application for it, but you'll automatically be considered when the department reviews your application to the program. There is a question asking if there's an early bird deadline for fall 2022 cycle that you should keep in mind about. That is a good question. On the website that I just sent, that will show the application deadlines as well. And some of the programs do have an earlier deadline to apply by to be considered for financial aid in the form of scholarships. So that really depends on the program that you're applying to, but the website that I just sent should list all of that. Okay, some more scholarship questions. I think I answered that. There is a question asking if the Master of Arts in Statistics program is a STEM program. Yes, I believe that it is. Let me see if there's a website that shows a list of all of those. Okay, I believe that this is the list of all of our STEM programs. I am sending it to you as a direct message there. And do we offer spring admission? Let me check. There are only a very few amount of our programs that offer spring admission. For the MA program in mathematics or statistics, the spring is by invitation only. So you would have to reach out to the department directly if you're interested in applying to the spring semester. There is a question asking if there is a process or a pathway to get into a program if your English scores are below the minimum? That is a great question. Because of how the ISSO processes the I-20 documents, the students do have to have passing scores in order to create the I-20 document. So in that case, I would recommend retaking the test. I know that we do accept the online TOEFL test, and the Duolingo test is online. So that might be a more convenient way to retake the test if you need to do so to reach the minimum scores. I have a question asking about the IELTS scores. We need a minimum score of 7.0 overall. So not all of the individual scores have to be a 7.0, but the overall test has to be a 7.0. There's a question asking about the different languages for the Master of Arts in Linguistics program. That is a great question, and I'm not sure what the list of them is. I believe that there's about like 11 different languages. So let me send you their website here, as that would have a lot more information on it. Okay, I just sent their website on the chat here. And it looks like there is a list of the different languages on there. So hopefully that is helpful. There's a question asking about online courses. So for fall 2022, all of our courses will be on campus, and there will not be an online option for the programs. Okay, we have about 2 minutes left, so I'll answer these last questions here. There's a question asking if we have a specific evaluator site, if your qualifications have to be evaluated. So if your bachelor's degree certificate and transcripts are all in English, then we do not need an evaluation of that. A lot of our students will choose to submit a WES evaluation if they want to, but that's not something that's required if your transcript is already in English. Okay, there is a question asking if it's possible to have some jobs or internships that you may be able to pay all things without depending on a scholarship. Yeah, a lot of our students will have part-time jobs while they're students here. They may also have internships throughout the summer or throughout the semester. A lot of our students will also look for private scholarships outside of Boston University, as well as borrowing loans. So those are the three main ways that our students fund their education. And yeah, I will end the presentation there then, just to be respectful of all of your time. But thank you for being here today. And if you guys do have more questions, definitely reach out to us at our email listed here on this slide, which is grsmams@bu.edu, and we'll be happy to help answer your questions.